You already know what time it is. This is Art of MMA. I'm your host, Mike Ginn, joined as always by my man, Brandon Cuttino. Brandon, what's up, buddy?
What's going on, man? Good to be with you on a Wednesday. Time to talk
Absolutely.
some fights.
And a lot of fights to talk about. We got UFC coming up. We got Bellator taking the main event this weekend. And, of course, we're going to break down UFC from last weekend. But first, we got to take care of some business. Art of MMA brought to you by Fighters First. FightersFirst.shop. You can get all your great merch. Of course, I'm rocking the Bruce Lee this week. Brandon's rocking the Art of MMA logo shirt. I was a little bit worried we were going to be twins, but psychically we knew don't wear the same thing. As you can see on the screen, promo code is going to be Alpha Male to celebrate their big weekend last weekend. They got 3 big wins in the main card of UFC last weekend. And then, of course, their ex-fighter got a win too. So there you go. Alpha Male. And yes, we all know Bad Blood, TJ, and Uriah. But, you know, kind of a little fun in there. Alpha Male. Save yourself 20%. Get to the shop. Get all your Art of MMA merch and some other great designs in there as well. All right, Brandon. You saw the show notes. You know the rant is coming this week, and it has a lot to do with what we're going to talk about as far as the results from UFC Vegas 32. But here we are again. MMA judging. One more time. Not only did MMA judging take over the discussion at UFC Vegas 32 last weekend, it's been getting worse. Like, we want to stop talking about this. Like, there's no reason for us to sit up here on a show and talk about MMA judging. We don't want to talk about MMA judging. We want to talk about the action. We want to talk about what's going on in the world of mixed martial arts every single week. But here we are talking about MMA judging one more time. We'll talk about the results and we'll get into all that. But Brandon, you've been a big proponent of this. You keep talking about the open scoring. I keep talking about the way one does it, where it's just like, forget the rounds. You just pick a winner. And you get the rounds for breaks, but you just pick a winner. Last weekend, obviously the Barber Maverick fight, the main event with Dillashaw and Sandhagen. You can talk about the Paiva and Phillips fight. Obviously the prelims, a lot of people came in, took care of business. But when you have, and I know a lot of people are using this verdict service now to like kind of like fans pick the fights and the winners. But when you have such a dramatic shift, like the main event was close enough to where you could be like, all right, TJ won. All right, Corey won. But that Maverick Barber fight, and the world knows I was rooting for Barber, even though on this show I picked Maverick last week because I'm a big fan of Macy Barber. I love her attitude. I love her bravado. I think moving over to Alpha Male is going to be really good for her career. Not that Rufus Sport was bad, but it's just a different environment. Something wasn't working there. Change gyms, more competition, go over there. And it worked out for her. She got the win, but did she? Brandon, what the hell can we do about MMA judging at this point that we haven't talked about already?
I mean, honestly, it's just, I mean, if you can, you try to keep them accountable, which I know is hard to do because it's not like they have to go and go in front of the media and answer questions. Like I said, the way how they do it is really the commission brings them in. The commission brings them into an office. They go over the fight, and basically the judge just tells them the reasoning on why it is that they scored it for what. And usually it's always okay. We see your point, and then they just go on their merry way. I mean, it's really up to either like the promotions, because really like the promotions can say yes or no, to a ref, yes or no to a judge. So I mean, if there are judges that are just doing bad calls over and over and over, then you got to say, hey, you know what, we don't want you on our show anymore.
And the worst part of that was some of those judges were veteran judges.
But hey, like you always like to get on my boy Herb Dean about, he's a veteran too, but you be trying to say he has
coming
bad
later.
days.
Nice segue. That's coming later.
But that's what I'm saying. But he's trying to say he has bad days. Well, it's the same thing with a judge then, saying they could be veterans, but I mean, they could be veterans, but that don't mean that they're good veterans. Like you think of, everybody always thinks of the name, Allison Bird, right? The boxing judge, lady who always does bad scores. Yeah. It's the same thing even with Cecil Peoples, when he used to judge, But the thing too is also too with judges is like it all depends on what it is that you like, right? Because the thing, right, going with Cecil Peoples, he didn't like low kicks. He didn't think low kicks caused damage. So that's why if a fighter was really throwing low kicks, he wasn't really scoring that in his mind. But you get somebody else who might be a Muay Thai person, they love to stand up. They will give the low kicks more points than like say somebody who does a takedown. But if you got somebody who's a wrestler, and they like wrestling or they like jujitsu, and maybe somebody gets a takedown on them, but maybe it's like just one takedown and it's for like a hot second. They might give them more points for that instead of somebody who's just been dominating the whole round standing up. So
yeah, I think they've gotten better at that over the years, though. Like they don't give takedowns as much credit nowadays if you don't actually do anything with the takedown. Like before, you used to get like points for just taking somebody down. And all of a sudden, no, they won a round. They got a takedown. Nowadays, you got to do a little bit more with it. But when you got judges like Sal D'Amato's been a judge forever in Las Vegas. Dave Hansen, Chris Lee, a couple of the other guys on that Macy Barber Maverick fight. And you look at him and you're like, what did you see? Because, you look at it, and we'll talk about the fight obviously a little bit more in depth later. But Sal D'Amato gave that – it's really that second round, right? And only Chris Lee is the only one that gave it to Maverick. The other two both gave it to Barber. And as fans, as fighters, everywhere on social media, all you saw was like minds blowing. Like, how did Barber win that fight? And you could even argue that at that third round, if it was a championship fight and it was 4 or 5 rounds, Barber might actually won that fight anyway, because she definitely had the momentum going late in that fight where Maverick was getting tired. But you don't score UFC like that. You score UFC on a round basis, and the first 2 rounds were clearly Maverick. The first round was completely dominant Maverick. So there's got to be a better solution. And I definitely think that if you're doing, like you talk about all the time with Invicta and some other things, these open scoring, if Maverick knew, and she might have been too tired at that point anyway, but if she had known that she was down on 2 of the scorecards going into or it was tied on 2 of the scorecards going into the third round, and she needed to win that round to win the fight, you might have seen a different fighter, right? She might have come out a lot hungrier, a lot more passionate about trying to win that fight instead of trying to coast that third round because she was tired. Same thing with the Dillashaw and Sandhagen fight that we'll talk about later. If you knew what the score was going into the last round, and I actually gave Sandhagen the last round anyway, but maybe he's trying for a finish if he thought he might lose that fight versus just, outpointing TJ. There's so many ways to look at it. I still like the one method. I like the fact that I think you need to tweak it for the US, but I like the fact that you can just pick a winner. I wish boxing would do that, because boxing, so many rounds, but what are you really picking at the end? Are you picking round by round? You're looking at who dominated like most of the fight, but maybe they lost a couple rounds and they lose the fight. I think there's got to be a better method, and it really sucks that here we are in 2021 and MMA judging is just as prevalent as it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. We're still talking about the same bullshit. And we don't want to keep talking about this. We want to talk about how great these fights are. We want to talk about shit. I'd rather even talk about whether Herb Dean did a good job or not than talk about the judges who a lot of times have never fought, never done anything but sat there and been a fight fan. You hope they're fight fans. Actually, you don't know. Sometimes they're friends of a casino boss or friends of, so-and-so. The judges that were in this fight were all senior judges, which makes it even more mind-blowing because they know what they're looking at. So that's a little disturbing to me. Brandon, you got anything else to add on to that before we end this rant?
No, man, I'm good.
Yeah, see, we're just depressed talking about it. But we got to keep talking about it because it keeps happening. Oh, all right, before we hop into some of those results we were talking about last weekend, there was quite a bit of news coming out this weekend I want to tip on real quick. I know we kind of moved away from the news, but there's some things mentioned in before we go to the results real quick. Unfortunately, the return of Tatiana Suarez, undefeated UFC fighter, it's going to be pushed back even further. She's already been out of the cage 2 years. She has to go under knee surgery. It's unclear if it's related to the previous knee injury or if it's something new in training, But her fight at UFC 266 against Montefiore is off. She's got to do knee surgery now. Sterling versus Jan now has a date, UFC 267 in October 30th. So, knock on wood, hopefully that happens. Usman versus Covington 2 is going to happen. It's in November. No place set yet, but they're trying for Madison Square Garden, so right in Brandon's neck of the woods. And then Stipe. Stipe's talking about maybe jumping ship. I don't know what his contract status is. It's kind of weird, but he's like, maybe I'll go to one and fight Buller or somebody because he's very upset he's not getting the automatic rematch, especially with Lewis and Gane fighting and Ngannou having no dance partner. You can shake your head, but it's true. Who's Ngannou fighting? Is it Jones? Nobody knows. He's just waiting. Why not Stipe? Keep him active. And then Bellator London announces Douglas Lima versus MVP 2. That's going to be taking place in October. And last but not least, kind of MMA related, but more boxing related, Vitor Belfort versus Oscar De La Hoya is now an official professional bout instead of an exhibition bout. And my mind's blowing. For some reason, Brandon, I thought Oscar De La Hoya was in his 50s. He's actually, funny enough, still in his mid-40s. Like, I just swore he was so much older because he's been retired so long at this point. But he's actually, like, I think 2 years older than Vitor. Like, it's not even, like, that big of an age difference. So, go figure. Brandon, what do you want to say about that Stipe thing? I saw you shake your head.
I mean, it's just
the
him,
man's got
thinking,
11 title defenses in 4 years. Like,
nah, it's just him trying to get another, trying to get another title shot. Like, that's what happened when he lost to DC. He basically just sat out a whole year, until he got what he wanted.
In fairness, didn't they do the same thing for DC after he knocked DC out?
No, they just gave that fight. That fight just went on for a while because of everything going on.
So DC won the belt against Stipe. Stipe got hurt, didn't fight for a while. He fought Derek Lewis, and then he went and fought a light heavyweight title fight. When he came back to heavyweight, Stipe knocked Cormier out. And then who got the immediate rematch after Cormier got knocked out? Cormier.
When did that fight happen? It's like another year later.
Yeah, but that's because Cormier wasn't ready.
Nah.
Neither one of them were ready. Neither one of them were ready. That was
they were supposed to fight, but then everything happened, so it got pushed back.
That's why Ngannou kept complaining that they were both holding up the heavyweight division.
Nah, it's not. Nah, man.
Stipe had to give Cormier an immediate rematch after Cormier got knocked out.
No, he didn't have to give him an immediate rematch. He wasn't trying to fight anybody. Stipe wasn't trying to fight.
You don't think Dana said, this is going to be Cormier's last fight. This is who you have to fight?
Nope.
That's what Stipe said. Stipe said Dana made him fight him.
Sure. All right.
I'm just saying that's what the guy involved in it said. And you got to remember that Stipe has been arguably the best heavyweight over the last half decade in that division. He dominated Ngannou the first time they fought, and Ngannou dominated him this last time. I don't think that they should wait for Stipe versus Ngannou, but if Ngannou's not got anybody to fight because John Jones is doing what John Jones is doing, and Lewis and Gane are fighting, I don't see any problem with having them fight again if Ngannou's just sitting there on the sidelines anyway. That's my point of it. I don't disagree that there should be somebody in line in front of Stipe because Stipe did look that bad last fight. But if there's nobody else, why not? That's all I'm saying. All right. You ready to get some results this week?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. He's all mad at me now. He's like, F you. All right. Let's talk about it. UFC Vegas 32. Just so much all over the map when we're talking about this fight card. And I'm not looking away from Brandon. I'm just pulling stuff closer for me to see. Obviously, things got a little bit changed up. Our co-main event, Ashley Yoder and their fight got pulled because Chason got hurt. They haven't disclosed her injury, but Chason had to pull out, so there was no late replacement. So our co-main event pick from last week went to like most of my picks, just disappeared. So we only had 2 picks last week. We picked the main event. Each of us had an individual pick. One of us won their pick, but he picked a teammate. Does it even count? And then the other one got screwed by the judges. So does any of that really count? We should both be 0-1, right?
Nope.
All right. He's still lead dog for another week. Go out and celebrate. Buy one of his shirts. Show him that you love him. Anyway, you can find all those shirts, by the way, right above his head, along with the promo code Alpha Male, just in case you guys forget. Always promoting. But anyway, let's jump right into that main event. Five-round war between TJ Dillashaw and Corey Sandhagen. Lots of controversy, Brandon, on who won. I'm going to give you the floor first. Who do you think won? Tell me why, and break down that fight for me.
I had Sandhagen winning the fight 3-2. I thought Sandhagen won rounds 2, 4, and 5. TJ definitely took rounds 1 and 3. Sandhagen really kind of said it himself. That the thing was, right, there was opportunities where he just let things go. He didn't follow up. He's kind of only throwing really like one shot punches or kicks, while TJ he was doing combinations. He also got the takedowns in that 5th round. They were 2 quick ones, but they were still takedowns. He was still being active. Like I said, he was going forward. But hey, just because you're going forward doesn't mean that you're winning the fight. If you're not landing and you're getting a counter punch or counter kicked. But hey, all in all, though, it was a good fight. TJ he did look good. On his return fight. He really didn't look like he had lost a step. But yeah, I just thought Sandhagen won those rounds 2, 4, and 5. Like I said, I just thought Sandhagen really did almost put him out, with that knee, but he didn't catch him flush. He kind of caught him off to the side. So that's kind of why TJ was able to still kind of like, hey,
he caught him pretty flush. I saw a picture of that. He caught him pretty flush.
Yeah.
There's 2 things. One, I agree with you. I think Sandhagen won that fight for pretty much the same reasons. I will give TJ all the credit in the world. TJ came back and basically he tore ligaments in his knee in the 1st round. He has to have surgery to replace some lateral ligaments, or repair some lateral ligaments. He fought through that. Like the 2nd round, he kind of came out kind of flat because of his knee. His coaches told him stop being lazy, fight through it, and he came out like fire after that, pretending his knee didn't even hurt. He did really tear some ligaments in that knee because he was kind of lazy coming out of a leg lock, and it popped. He had the huge gash over his eye, which almost stopped the fight in the 2nd round. Brandon's gonna get mad at me. Herb Dean saved TJ's ass but he didn't do it on purpose. He did it because he was doing the right thing, stopping, checking the cut. There was a slight break in action. TJ clearly couldn't see at the time because the blood was just running straight through his eyes. Herb's like, wait. And then the fight was almost stopped. Doctor let it continue. TJ, with that sense of urgency now, like, oh shit, if I don't hurry up and stop this fight, the doctors might stop this fight, came out a lot more fire. Now, if that fight had never been stopped to check the cut, I think Sandhagen knocks him out in the 2nd round. I think Sandhagen was clearly dominating the 2nd round. TJ was clearly hurt. But after that, TJ came out. He won the 3rd round. He looked decent enough in the 4th round, but it was clearly a Sandhagen round. And he looked decent in the 5th round, but I also thought that was clearly a Sandhagen round. But a lot of judges gave it to Dillashaw, and I don't really understand it because Sandhagen landed all the cleaner shots in the 5th round. He clearly was outpointing him in the 5th round, and he almost finished him at one point in the 5th round with a couple big shots. But throughout the fight, TJ kept pushing the pace. He didn't have the legs under him because of the knee injury, so he couldn't do the takedowns, but he'd clinch him against the cage, hold him, which was more of like a control thing. It wasn't like doing any damage. Neither one did a lot of damage. Like he was kneeing him in the back of the thighs. Sandhagen would turn around with an elbow. Like it just wasn't a lot of action though in those clinches. But TJ was pushing the pace the whole time. To me, this fight kind of goes back to the whole Nick Diaz, Carlos Condit conversation. It's always like the example of points versus damage and putting pressure and pace. This case, much like the Carlos Condit situation, Sandhagen did the better work. He landed the better shots. He was more active. And after the fight, it didn't even look like Sandhagen had been in a 5-round fight where TJ Dillashaw looked like he had been brutalized. So I think that's one of those cases of the MMA judging. If it was like pick a winner and you're looking at them both at the end of the fight, how do you not pick Sandhagen? But if you're picking round to round, anything can happen. I just don't, Brandon, for the life of me, I don't know how the judges gave that 5th round to Dillashaw. Like, I don't. Do you?
Nope.
As far as what's next, TJ Dillashaw's got to have surgery now, so he can call out everybody he wants to call out in that division. Who knows how long he's going to be recovering? From what I understand, it's not a long recovery, maybe like 3 months because it's not a major tear. So hopefully he can hop back in, especially with Jan and Sterling finally having a date. Maybe early 2022, we see TJ Dillashaw back in the conversation. Personally, Brandon, I want to see him fight one more contender before he gets a title shot. I know he's a former champ. I know he never lost the belt, but he did get suspended for 2 years because of cheating. If you listen to Uriah Faber, there's all kinds of skeletons sitting out there because of TJ Dillashaw. But there is a lot of bad blood there. Who do you think Dillashaw should fight next, and what do you think is next for Sandhagen?
Dillashaw is going to get the next title shot. He's ranked number 2. So by the way how the timelines work out, saying the championship fights in October, he has the surgery, he has to heal, he has to heal up. By the time everything's all said and done, he'll be ready to jump in and train and sorry, and fight for the belt.
I want to see him fight Rob Font.
I mean, I don't think that's happening because Rob Font's coming off an L anyway. Rob Font just lost his last fight.
Didn't Rob Font just get a win? I thought Rob Font just won.
Oh wait, or am I thinking of Dan Ige? I'm mixing him up.
Yeah, Rob Font was supposed to be next. He just beat Cody Garbrandt and dominated him.
That's right. I'm thinking of Dan Ige. My bad.
Yeah, now Rob Font's been jumping up those rankings, and I think he's the best fit. I think if Sandhagen, especially if Sterling wins, Sterling beats Jan, he's not in a rush to fight again. So, what about Sandhagen though? What's next for him after this loss? Does he lose momentum?
Nah, man. I mean, he's still in the mix, man. I'm saying he should still be definitely top 5. I just don't really know. I don't really know who's next. Who it is that he would want to fight. What rematch you want to do? Because I'm sure he's not trying to fight Marlon again because he just beat Marlon. I mean, maybe a Jose Aldo.
What about Pedro Munoz?
Yeah, he could fight him too.
I mean, I know he's a little lower ranked, but he's been winning quite a bit lately. He had that war against your boy Jimmy Rivera. Came out on top of that. I think Pedro Munoz deserves a little bit more credit. And then the only other name I see there that he may not have fought yet is Merab, but Merab's all the way down at 11. So that'd be kind of a big drop for him. But like you said, everything else is a rematch. Like Marlon, even Sterling, if Sterling loses. I don't have much interest in seeing him fight Garbrandt. I think he would destroy Garbrandt. I don't think Garbrandt's what he used to be. Yeah, I don't see anybody, or Jose Aldo, I guess, but we'll see what happens with Aldo this weekend because he's fighting, or not this weekend, at the pay-per-view on the 7th. So, I don't know. But it's going to be interesting to see how the bantamweight rankings work themselves out. Further on that card, man, now we're getting into like more controversy. So Paiva gets the win, majority decision over Kyler Phillips. That was an interesting fight because Kyler came out red hot. Was just like, I didn't think Paiva was going to make it out of the first round. And then Paiva kind of settled down. He started coming back a little bit in the second round, and he definitely won the third round. Who did you have winning that fight? Did you have it a draw or did you have it a decision for Paiva?
Actually, to be honest with you, I think I did have it for Paiva as well. Like I really thought Phillips had took the first round, but after that, it was just all Paiva. Like I thought Phillips slowed down. I thought Paiva really controlled the fight, and he listened to his corners or coaches, should I say, really well. And he did what he had to do, because to me Phillips was all about the flash. He really was trying to be the Matrix, and he was just trying to do that one shot. He really wasn't doing combinations. He was trying to do like a spinning back fist. He like almost fell over when he did that. Like that's what I kind of thought. I kind of thought, like, say he came out gangbusters the first round, but after that, I mean, I don't know if he got tired or what, but he just wasn't the same after the first round.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a combination of he maybe have slowed down, but I think also Paiva just picked it up. Once Paiva got his confidence going in that second round, I think it was a different fight. I thought the first round was a 10-8 round. Like, I thought he was so dominant that first round that Paiva looked like he wasn't going to make it out. and he almost got stopped several times in that round. So I thought it was a 10-8 round. I actually had it a draw. I didn't think Paiva lost, but because I do think Paiva won the second and third round. But I don't think he won them dominant enough to where he got a 10-8 round. And I think Phillips did get a rare 10-8 round without having ground control. Normally they only give 10-8 rounds and somebody's just like on top of him for 5 minutes. But in this case, I thought just he lands so many big shots in that first round with no answer from Paiva. Like I didn't think like that was the Paiva we saw in the second, third round was the Paiva we've seen for the last year or so. But that first round was a guy I'd never seen before. Like he looked like a deer in headlights. And maybe all the spectacular stuff that Phillips was doing was like confusing him. And then once Faber and them they got in that corner, calmed him down, he came out like he normally does. So props to Team Alpha Male because they definitely, they coached him up between those rounds to get him back on pace. In the second and third round, looked like a different fighter. So congrats, Paiva. And who knew? Uriah Faber speaks Portuguese. So he is now an official translator for the UFC.
Yep.
Talk about a couple other fights and then we'll move on. There was just so much great action. And we know we don't really talk about the main and co-main, but let's go ahead and talk about your pick, your guy. Go ahead and talk about Julio getting that knockout win against Yul.
Oh man, it was a beautiful fight. I mean, just Julio Arce, man, just good movement, combinations, first round just came out, he was really kind of just, just really like kind of looking, just kind of, seeing what it is that Yul was throwing, but I mean, he was just picking the shots. I mean, he rocked them, he touched them up. And then boom, second round, he came in, he was like, all right, I know what I got to do. And he just went to work. He made Yul do the stinky leg, and then boom, he went in and he got the finish. Ref had to step in and stop it.
Yeah, it was a good stoppage. Yul didn't agree with it, but at the same time, his legs were gone. His head was there. His legs were gone. His body wasn't responding. The first round went very back and forth. Yul landed some good shots in the first round too. But like you said, the second round, Julio was just sharper, landed the greater like accuracy, and just took Yul out with some just technical, like perfect shots. So props to Julio. Way to get back in that win column and moving up in that division. Also on that fight card, another fight that I was excited about. I just showed you the Dr. Pepper versus Reese's bet that we talked about last week. Yanez versus Costa lived up to the hype. Costa looked great the first round, and Yanez was in some serious trouble. And in the second round, it just completely flipped. Yanez just came in, took over, got the TKO in the second round. I think Adrian Yanez has an incredible bright future in that division and in the UFC. I think he's going to be – I don't know. I mean, it's tough to like say who's going to be a champion nowadays because we have so many great champions, but he's going to be in that conversation pretty soon. Macy Barber versus Maverick. We talked about that. Brandon, who did you have winning that fight?
I'm going to say, man, this is your pick right here,
Well, I already talked about it in the rant. Like we already know who I think.
I mean, I had Maverick winning this fight. I had her winning the first and second round. I gave the third round to Barber because Barber was more active. She was controlling as well. Like I said, man, to me, I was a little shocked in this fight. Like honestly, I told everybody that would listen to me about this fight. I said that Maverick was going to win and win by violence. I thought she was going to run through Macy Barber, but it wasn't the same. But hey, you know what? Shame on me. I didn't do my full research because I didn't know that Barber was hanging out at Team Alpha Male, new coaches, new system. So, that could have maybe helped her up. But to me, though, I still thought Maverick still won. Like I said, I still thought she dominated rounds 1 and 2. I know me and you had to talk about Macy Barber and her clinch game. Like I said, her clinch game, that was allowing her to control Maverick. But it really wasn't like I didn't think at any point she was gonna be able to finish Maverick off, just staying in the clinch.
Yeah, I kind of disagree with that one a little bit because I know Faber from the outside, he was yelling, that's how you're winning this fight. That's how you're winning this fight. You grab her, you control her. But in that third round, when it's not necessarily the second round, the third round when Maverick was just tired. And I know she kind of had like that takedown. She kind of had like a little burst of energy towards the end. But in that second round when Maverick was tired and Barber had her in certain positions and then she would grab her and try to clinch her and do certain things and throw her elbows and other stuff. Step back, I think she finishes Maverick. And I know you disagree, but she just had Maverick so tired and exhausted that she was winning those strikes, especially in the middle of that third round, that if there was distance and there was not clinched up, I feel like she could have landed a shot to put Maverick out. Now, we'll never know. And if we're just judging this fight based on what actually happened, Maverick won that fight. She won the first 2 rounds. Barbara clearly won the third round. But Barbara didn't do enough in that second round to steal that round, even though she did have some nice strikes in the second round. Maverick did the takedowns. Maverick did the control. First round was all Miranda Maverick. So I just don't see how the judges, we talked about this in the rant, I don't see how the judges gave the fight. Obviously, I picked Maverick last week, but I am a Macy Barber fan. I love her bravado. I love her attitude. I don't think there's enough of it in women's MMA. I think since Ronda Rousey left, like you don't see women doing that Conor McGregor type talk shit. Now, I'm not saying she's Conor McGregor level, but she definitely has a confidence about her. She lost a little bit when she lost to Roxanne Modafferi. She lost a little bit as she keep kind of falling down the totem pole a little bit. This was her chance to get back. She did get the win, but she's going to have a lot to prove her next fight out against whoever they match her up with, because most people don't think she won this fight. And I wouldn't be upset. You know, we were talking about what's next for Dillashaw and Sandhagen. I wouldn't be upset if they ran it back. Like if they decided, you know what, that fight was so close, let's run it back. I wouldn't be upset if they ran this fight back. Maverick and Barber. Let them work it out one more time, because neither one have a clear opponent coming up as far as like what's next for either one of them. So I wouldn't be upset. A couple other shout outs before we get out of here. You know, we're always down with Shorty Rock and Ryan Cafaro. Their girl, Sarge Eubanks, got the win over Elise Reed. We talked about it. Tough challenge for Elise Reed. She was coming up in weight, making her UFC debut on not short notice, but not the longest notice either. She didn't get a full camp. And on top of that, Sarge is just a beast. Like Sarge is, if she can make that weight at 125, she's a problem for a lot of girls. And you got the ground game of Shorty. You got the striking of Ryan Cafaro in her corner. She's got all the tools. She got on top of Elise Reed. Elise's Reed, her eyes just completely shut. Like that was just nasty. I do feel like Elise Reed, I know Brandon and I kind of agreed with this, she probably needed 1 or 2 more fights in the CFFC to get a little bit more experience. She only had 4 fights coming in. Maybe a couple more. Maybe she'd be a different fighter. Well, hopefully she'll bounce back. Hopefully she'll get a couple more shots. I wouldn't think it's a bad thing, since they do have a working relationship, Brandon, with CFFC, if maybe they let her go down and fight one or 2 more fights before she comes back, because she just needs more experience. And maybe she needs to fight at 115. 125 is just not her weight class. Also, shout out to Babita. She got the decision over Goldie. She looked great with her striking. And then Brandon's boy, New Jersey native, Mickey Gall. He got that rear naked choke. And, oh, yeah, Imavov knocked out Heinisch. I picked that one on my DraftKings, so I was pretty proud of myself for that one. And Brandon Allen. Since we're talking about everything else, Brandon Allen looked pretty good in his win over Soriano. Anything else you want to talk about that? Oh, shit. And then also, Mr. Damage himself, Darren Elkins, you can never count him out. Monster comeback in that second round to get that TKO over Derek Minner, which shout out to Dan of Cage My IQ. He told me if he was on the show last week, he would have picked Derek Minner. So you might not have got the loss, Dan, but that's kind of like a loss. In our mind, me and Brandon, in our mind, we're counting that against your record. We're just going to put that out there. All right, Brandon, you've been kicking my ass lately. I did go 5-0 the week before, but you've been kicking my ass lately. Are you ready to make some picks?
You know it, man.
All right, we're going to do things a little bit differently this week. We're going to start off with the UFC. Bellator's got the more prestigious main event. So we're going to put Bellator in the main event. We'll make our extra pick for Bellator this week. But we're going to start off with UFC. We're going to start off with Uriah Hall versus Sean Strickland. Last time we saw Uriah Hall, unfortunately, that Chris Weidman incident where Chris Weidman broke his leg, Anderson Silva-like. Sean Strickland just a couple weeks ago, just a month ago, got a win. Looked very dominant. Sean Strickland's looked great since he's come back from his injuries. Brandon, who you got in this fight?
Oh, it's easy, man. Picking Uriah Hall. The better striker, better athlete. And also, too, like I said, man, ever since he moved down to Fortis MMA in Texas, different person, different fighter. You know, he's not in his head anymore. You know, he has a good coach. Saul Saul. He's just looking dominant, man. I think Uriah Hall finally believes in himself, and a fighter who believes in himself is a dangerous person, especially with his talent as well. Like I said, Sean Strickland does not move his head. I think his last fight, that we saw, because I remember because you were saying it, and even the missus was saying it, and she was like, "Oh, somebody is gonna get knocked out in this fight," and she thought it was gonna be Sean Strickland. Why? Because he didn't move his head. Dude, if you're gonna stand in front of Uriah Hall like that, you're gonna end up as another highlight reel for him. All right, and that's what I think. I think that's what's gonna happen. I can see Sean Strickland's a tough guy, so I can see this fight maybe going to the second round, but at least by the third round, it's a finish going. Either I see Uriah Hall's getting a stoppage in the second or third round. Uriah Hall getting his hand raised, he's gonna get another step closer to getting a title shot.
Yeah, you basically answered for me. He doesn't have any defense. Sean Strickland just doesn't have any defense. He's a violent man. He throws punches at will, kicks at will. He doesn't stop coming. But you can clearly see that he doesn't care if he gets hit. Against Jutko is what you're talking about. And, yeah, his head was on a line the whole time. But he had the length. He had the distance. It was hard for Jutko to get in there and do the damage. It went to a decision, but it was clearly Sean Strickland that dominated that fight. Before that, you had the fight with Brendan Allen. As good as Brendan Allen is, he's going to mix it up. He's going to take you down. He's going to do different things. He's not a hardcore striker. Uriah Hall is world-class striker. Like, that's what he does. That's how he cashes his checks. He knocks people out, and sometimes in highlight fashion. Uriah Hall, I don't think he's going to have any kind of, like, setbacks from, like, like sometimes people's heads get messed up when they see an injury like they saw with Weidman. It kind of messes up fighters' heads. Other sports, you see that a lot of times. I don't think he's going to have those kind of setbacks. And I think he's the worst possible matchup for Sean Strickland because Uriah Hall can be a counter striker. Uriah Hall can sit there and wait for his moments. And if Sean Strickland comes out there all wild trying to pick and pop and do what he does, you're right. It might wait to the second round. Hall might wait a little bit. And then he's just going to execute him. He's just going to straight out put Strickland out of his mind because I like Sean Strickland. I think he's done a lot better since he came back from his layoff in a new weight class. He's looked more comfortable. He looked good. But Uriah Hall's on a mission to try to get to that title. And this might be the last run of his career as well. Last chance he has. So I think he has more sense of urgency. And I think Uriah Hall's the better fighter, just to be quite honest. So I'm picking Hall also. So I'm not going to make up any ground on Brandon for that one. The co-main, which is, oh my God, how many times has this changed, Brandon? It's been canceled, moved around. I don't even know if we should even really talk about the co-main because it might change again. But right now, it's Hokang versus Yabya. Who you got?
I was gonna say no. I think the co-main is actually the Ronnie Yaya fight.
That's what I just said. Hokang versus Yanya.
Oh, I'm sorry. You said it so differently. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, I got Yaya easily.
You know I can't talk sometimes.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, no, I got Yaya taking it. Same ground game is just on another level. That's usually how Yaya gets his W's. I think he's gonna take him to the ground, and he's just gonna be he's gonna be the shark, and he's gonna get another submission.
I'm going to be different from you for one reason. And you picked a fight last week. Well, you didn't officially pick it, but you picked it based on Dr. Pepper versus Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Unofficially, that fight.
Yeah.
I'm picking Hokang because his nickname is Mr. Perfect. And one of my favorite wrestlers of all time is Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect. So he is on a 3-fight winning streak, whereas Ronnie's only on a 1-fight winning streak. Kind of hard to say. I think Ronnie has the better ground game, but if it is on the feet, I think Kang has a better chance as well. So I'm going to pick Kang in that one, but I do think it's going to be a fun matchup. And, one other fight I think you definitely need to take a look at on that card, lower on that card, and I think it should arguably be one of the co-main events. Jin Yufrey versus Ashley Yoder. Both of them are coming off like tough losses, so I can see why it's a little lower. But I think that's going to be a fun fight. I think Ashley Yoder probably gets the win there. but I'm always rooting for Ginn Frey because she's always been a friend of the show or a friend of the website when we used to do interviews. And then Ryan Benoit's in action. I think the Brian Barberina versus Jason Witt fight has potential to be fight of the night. So there's some fun stuff going on. Cheyenne Bays is back in action. Hopefully she can avoid the headlock this time. Brandon, anything else you looking on that card before we hop over to Bellator?
On the main card, I'm going to be looking at my boy Zaruk Adeshev. He's the one that's going to be fighting Benoit.
Yeah.
I known him for a while. Been on a couple of kickboxing shows with him, so I always look forward to his fights. I think his record in the UFC is not too good, but I think though he's finally dropping down to 125 because I think his other fights have been 135, but I think he truly is really a 125er.
And one other fight real quick before we take off onto Bellator. Over on our brother channel, sister channel, whatever. Cage My IQ interviewed Danny Chavez not too long ago. He's actually in action on this card, and he's fighting Kai Kamaka, and I think that's going to be a fun stand-up, bang it out. I don't know who's going to win that fight because they're going to go back and forth. The last time Kamaka was in action, I think he had a tough loss. Or no, he got the win in that fight. He got the win. He lost to TJ Brown. I was right, yeah. He lost TJ Brown in what was just a 3-round war. Those two just stood and banged for 3 rounds. Both of them had like moments of success. I think I thought Kamaka won that fight when it happened. I remember talking about it on the show, but TJ Brown got the decision. But Kamaka versus Danny Chavez has another sleeper fight for that card. Something to take a look at. All right, Brandon, you ready to talk about this? You've been waiting months. Hell, you've been waiting almost a year for this thing. We knew it was going to happen eventually. Obviously, Pitbull had to take care of business. Talking about Bellator 263, Pitbull, Patricio Pitbull versus AJ McKee Jr. As Brandon says, that guy in action. I should make you wait, but I'm going to let you go ahead and pick first. Tell me what happens in this fight. Tell me what's going down this Saturday night.
It's going to be new AJ McKee. He is going to solidify his name in the MMA world. He's going to solidify his name in the featherweight rankings, and he is just going to do what he has to do to get the W. AJ McKee to me has just been that guy saying, man, he's been groomed to this position by his dad. He's been with Bellator his whole professional career. So they've even been grooming him into this moment. And like I said, I think this is just gonna be his time. No disrespect to Pitbull, great champion, great fighter. Like I said, he still would be the lightweight champion, but after Saturday, he will no longer be the featherweight champion. I just think AJ McKee's gonna have the length. He's good on the ground. He has good striking as well. The only thing I worry about with Pitbull is that Pitbull, I think, does have the power advantage. So Pitbull can catch you. Plus, Pitbull does throw good combinations. I really haven't seen AJ McKee stand up defense in a lot of his fights, so I'm not really too sure how that might go. But I think he still can have enough to where he could take Pitbull down if he's getting in trouble with the strikes, where he could take him down. And heck, man, he can maybe even get a submission on Pitbull. But I think the fight's gonna go all 5 rounds. But like I said, I think it's gonna be new. AJ McKee is your new featherweight champion, and he's the new featherweight king in Bellator. That way, he'll let those people in the UFC know what's really good over here.
I was fucking with you until you said you thought he was gonna sub Pitbull.
I said he could. I didn't say he would. I said he could.
Pitbull's never been subbed in his career. He has 12 submission wins of his own.
Hey, man, everybody can get subbed. Yo, the man's coming out with his own submissions out here, right? AJ McKee has his own submission.
I think AJ McKee is very slick. But now it's my turn, and I'm telling you why Pitbull's going to win that fight. It is no disrespect. I think AJ McKee is every bit the future of Bellator that you say. I just think this is a bad matchup for him. I think he does have the height and the length. I think if he can keep Pitbull at distance, I think he can win this fight. But I don't think he can keep Pitbull at distance. He's called Pitbull for a reason. The Pitbull brothers traditionally are not afraid to make the fight dirty. They're not afraid to get inside and rough you up. They're not afraid to take you down. Patricio, to me, is the more talented of the two, the king of both the featherweight and lightweight divisions in Bellator right now. And the reason why I'm picking Pitbull is because I don't think McKee has fought anybody like Pitbull. Now, don't get me wrong. You never fight somebody like that until you fight somebody like that. But if I'm picking a fight, I'm going to go with the guy who might be arguably the best featherweight in the entire world, maybe short of Max Holloway, against the potential. I'm picking the sure thing because to me, Emmanuel Sanchez, Carvalho, Archuleta, Chandler, Sanchez again, Weichel, Strauss. That's the resume of the last 7 wins that Pitbull's put off. The only loss that he mixed in there was a couple fights before that. He did lose to Strauss. He also lost to Benson Henderson, who arguably back in 2016 was one of the best fighters in the world. You look over at AJ McKee, he's beat a bunch of people. He beat Campos. He beat Caldwell. Curran's another great veteran. But a lot of the names you see on his resume, while he is 17-0, you've never heard of in your life. So that's not any disrespect. You got to fight who they match you up with. Like you said, he's fought his entire career in Bellator. It's not his choice who he fights. This Grand Prix was the best thing for him. He came out, he became a star. But this is the end of the train, Brandon. I know that's your boy, but this is the end of the line. He's fighting the top dog now, and that top dog is one of the best in the world. So I'm picking Pitbull in this one. I think it's going to go to decision. I think it's going to be a 5-round war. I think Pitbull's going to win easily, like 4 rounds to 1 or 3 rounds to 2. But I don't think it's going to be any kind of controversy. I think McKee will have his moments, especially if there's any kind of distance between the two. And I think if it does go to the ground, I think McKee's in a world of trouble because I know McKee is very slick with his transitions, but Pitbull's a top-level black belt. And as our good friend Sergio always says, there's levels to this shit. And Pitbull is a different level. And we all know who he's rooting for. So if we had another guest pick, we know Sergio would be picking Pitbull too. So that said, I think the whole world's going to be watching this Saturday night. And I think UFC's in trouble ratings-wise head-to-head because while MMA nerds like you and I will be watching both at the same time, I think most eyes will be glued to Bellator this weekend. Over in the co-main event, speaking of Emmanuel Sanchez, he's against Mads Burnell. I don't know much about Mads. I've seen him fight a couple times. I know Sanchez is very tough. Who do you got in that fight?
I'm going with Sanchez, man. I know he's coming off the L to Pitbull. He's kind of I think a lot of people think that he might be going downward, but no, I think he's kind of maybe he still could be a gatekeeper type of role, but I just think Emmanuel Sanchez, man, he's a tough dude, goes forward, has good combinations, hanging out at Duke Rufus as well. So I just think it's going to be Sanchez. I'm not really sure how he wins it. I mean, I could see a finish or I could see decision as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough for me to pick this fight because Sanchez's only 2 losses in recent memory since the last 5 years are to Pitbull. But at the same time, you got somebody like Burnell who has been around the world. Looking at his resume, he's fought in the UFC. He went to Cage Warriors after that. He lost to Arnold Allen, which is people lose. Arnold Allen's a top contender. Then he went to Cage Warriors, got his swagger back, came back and won a couple fights in Bellator, both by stoppage. Very hard for me to pick this fight. I think Sanchez is the better vet, even though they're pretty close in age. But I think Sanchez is probably going to get this W as well. But I think it's going to be a little better fight than people think with the resume that Burnell has. All right. One of the other reasons we moved this to the main event is because Brandon wanted to pick his extra pick fight on this card. So I agreed. Brandon, what is your other fight to look out for in this card?
You know what it is, man. Picking the ladies fight, man. I'm going with Vanessa Porto. I think she's the main event on the prelims. Like I said, I think Porto, I've known her since I've watched her since Invicta. Like I said, she came to Bellator. She had that rough fight with Liz Carmouche. But I really think besides Liz, I mean, I don't really see anybody else maybe beating her right now until she gets to the top, maybe a Miss Dynamite or the champion or maybe a McFarlane. But I think everybody else on that road, I think it should be easy pickings for Porto.
I think it's gonna be a fun fight. I think Porto is probably favored to win that fight, and I probably pick her as well. But on that, so I have to make a pick now on Bellator, and I'm actually gonna pick a fight that actually is kind of like a gatekeeper situation too. You're talking about Manuel Sanchez, Yamuchi fighting Christopher Gonzalez. Yamuchi's been around for a long time. I mean, he's been in Bellator since 2014, 2013. And his losses, other than that split decision in April against Monet, he lost to Michael Chandler. That's not a bad loss. He lost to Bubba Jenkins 5 years ago, which wasn't a bad loss back then either. And Bubba Jenkins kind of bounced back a little bit. And then before that, Will Martinez. Other than that, he had that's 3 losses in 10 years. The guy is a vet. He's 30 fights in, but he's only 28 years old, Brandon. Like somebody who's been fighting for over 11 years, you think they'd be older than that. But he's only 28. Like he started super young. Christopher Gonzalez, he's a big, tall, lanky lightweight. He's 5'11". He's got the range. He's actually a year older at 29, but he's 6-0. He is a team alpha male fighter. You know, they've been on a roll after last weekend. But other than beating Roger Huerta, who's been long since past his prime, he hasn't really beaten anybody. Tarkov was a good win, but it was a split. He had 2 straight split decision wins. So this is going to be the toughest test of his career. And I got to tell you, I thought that Yamuchi beat Monet when I saw that fight in April. And I thought he got robbed. He looked very good against Darren Cruikshank, another vet. I'm going to take Yamuchi in this fight. And I think the young Lion's going to get his first loss in Bellator. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, man. I do remember Chris Gonzalez, on the come up. But yeah, like you said, I think this will be his biggest test. And like I said, Yamaguchi, he has the experience. So yeah, I probably would agree with you that I think Yamaguchi get his hand raised.
This card also has a couple other fights tape notice of Usman Nurmagomedov, obviously the cousin of Khabib. He's in action. Former champion Brett Primus is in action as well against Islam Mameda, which is going to be a good fight. What other fights are you actually looking forward to in this card before we get out of here today, Brandon?
Let me see. Oh, who else on the prelim that I was just looking at?
Yeah, a couple young kids. Justin Barry making his debut.
Oh no. What's his name is fighting? He's a vet too. Georgie Karakani is fighting. He's actually fighting back at lightweight. I know he's kind of bouncing around between featherweight and lightweight, but he's staying at lightweight. So it's always good to watch him fight. Because he was there in the beginning of Bellator. So he's another person I don't mind watching.
That's another gatekeeper fight too against an 8-2 Crosby, who's coming up fast too.
Yeah, there's kind of like a good amount of catchweight fights on here too, or there's like 3 catchweight fights on here as well. So. Yeah,
I think Bellator's going to put a great show on this Saturday night. It's very rare for them in UFC to go head-to-head, but when you got a main event like Pitbull versus AJ McKee Jr., I think that's going to be – they know that real MMA fans are going to tune in for that. UFC is top-heavy with Uriah Hall versus Sean Strickland. So it's still going to be a fun weekend for fight fans. Of course, next weekend we got the big pay-per-view. PFL's getting rolling with their playoffs soon. So there's going to be a lot talking about when we hit August coming up. But this weekend's going to be a good start to, finishing out the summer pretty strong. I still don't know when – me and Brandon talked about this offline. I don't know when the light heavyweight Grand Prix is going to continue. They were supposed to do the second round in July. That's came and gone. The next card after this one is Musashi. They haven't advertised any of the fights, Bader versus Corey Anderson, Nemkov versus Rumble. Those are the fights we're waiting for. We're hoping by the fall they'll continue the tournament, and then we'll have a Grand Prix champion hopefully by next year, I'm guessing. They kept pushing back the featherweight Grand Prix as well. So, it's a combination of what's going on in the world, injuries, a million other things when it comes to the fight game. So it is what it is, but we are excited. We're hoping that we do get a conclusion to that light heavyweight tournament, the 205 tournament. Anything else you want to add this week, Brandon?
Everybody get your popcorn, baby. AJ McKee, he's going to be the champ. Mike is going to be taking some L's again this weekend.
Brandon,
and your boy will still be top dog next week. And that's all else I got to add on that.
Brandon, I'm gonna have to like move your chiropractor appointment, man. You're way too relaxed after those appointments. Like you don't even get animated. You're just sitting there like, the world is good. I feel any pain. Like we gotta get you fired up, man. Tell the wife to move your appointment to Thursdays. We gotta get you fired up for these things. I think it's gonna be a fun night. I think it's gonna be a fun card. As always, Art of MMA is brought to you by Fighters First. Promo code's right above you. Alpha Male, save yourself 20% on all of our shirts, everything else in the shop, the new legendary shirts, of course, Brandon's shirts as well. So now's a good time. Save 20%. Cop anything you want site-wide. For the mechanic and myself, this is Art of MMA. Hope you guys enjoyed the fights this weekend. We'll see you next week.
Oh my God. This is good shit.